This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Good morning and happy 2 days after Thanksgiving by the time this episode comes out, everyone. We are Saturday Morning Mysteries and we're your hosts. I'm Grace.
And I'm Alexis.
And even though this is coming out the Saturday after Thanksgiving, we hope your Thanksgiving was lovely. We are finishing up
eating your leftovers.
Oh yeah. What's your favorite Thanksgiving leftover?
So to be fair, it's like the combo, the sandwich, the classic sandwich, especially if my mom's sister makes homemade challah bread. Oh man.
Is this Jody?
Aunt Jody, if you're listening now, I know sometimes she does. Yeah, she makes the homemade challah bread with the ham, the turkey, throw some mac and cheese, some stuffing, some greens. Literally the most unhealthy thing you could ever eat, but it's just one bite of Thanksgiving, like all of it in a massive sandwich. Yes. But if I had to pick one specific thing, the mac and cheese, but preferably in that sandwich.
All together.
Yeah, all together.
Incredible. I mean, basically literally the same answer of like the sandwich. The follow-up sandwich is the favorite. Specifically, I do enjoy turkey the most as a leftover, and like we'll sometimes make soup with it, that kind of stuff. But the sandwich with all of those freshy leftovers is just, I could eat it all year. Gladly.
And I would still look forward to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it would make no difference in how much I love it.
It would mean restarting the calendar of eating the sandwich all year. So we're here for it. We're here for it. So yes, we hope you all had a very wonderful, joyous Thanksgiving. One of our favorite holidays for sure. So
and to wrap up our Thanksgiving saga, our arc, we are today, Alexis will be doing part 2 of Pocahontas, and I'm very excited for it. If you missed part 1, go back and listen to last week's episode. And I actually want to start, Alexis, before we get into anything with part 2 or back to part 1, doing something like slightly different that I didn't tell you about before we started.
Okay. Fair.
And that thing, and for the viewers on YouTube, you know, we put little like screen grabs up of things, but I'm in Zoom right now. I'm sending Alexis a link to eBay that I need her to open. Live.
Oh my God. Am I going to get like digital STDs?
I don't think so.
This is it. Okay.
It's the toy from
Grandmother
my recovered memory from a last episode. Apparently it was a Burger King toy, which I actually don't know how I would have gotten because I've never had Burger King. My family like didn't go to fast food.
What?
Yeah, like the only fast food I had growing up was
Steak
like
and Shake.
Wendy's and Steak and Shake, baby.
Yeah.
But like, yes, I don't know how I obtained this, but this is the toy. I will put it on Instagram on our screen grab.
All right, I'm going to just rapid fire off my 3 thoughts here. 1, this toy is kind of terrifying me. 2, I love that you looked this up.
I needed to find it.
3, I'm like low-key patting myself on the back. I was not correct. It was not McDonald's, but the fact that I thought that it was like a fast food toy. I was like, what? Was that one of those? Quick
so on brand.
Because God, why do I remember that? But yes, exactly on brand too, because that was like the thing in the 90s. I don't know if they still do that these days.
I don't think
I'm not
so.
Sure.
But I feel like there's a very high chance that I just really wanted the toy, and so like I somehow just went
Pam
for the
was
toy
like,
or something.
No food.
I know, just to shut me the hell up.
They don't like sell them separately, so your mom probably paid like $50.
Just so I could get the toy,
which for sale now on eBay at $8.50. Not $850, $8.50.
And like probably the like cost to make was probably like 8 cents. Like that's a markup, $8.50 for that shit.
Disney and Burger King had to get their money back. All right. The stock buybacks had to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So anyways, that's also why the break between recordings, not just making my coffee, but I had to find that.
Wonderful. You're totally forgiven now.
Yeah. So now I will pass it to Alexis after I did the self-serving, proving myself right moment.
Yes.
Thank you for indulging me.
So absolutely. Thank you for doing that research. I love it. I love it. Honestly, I'm going to keep that page open because $8.50 that's a reasonable cost if you ask me. That's not bad. So anyway, yes, we're back for part 2, discussing none other than the Walt Disney animated classic, Pocahontas. And before we jump into today's episode, I mentioned it towards the beginning of last week's episode, but just saying my sources for all of this information we've been talking about out the outset here. I looked at various Wikipedia pages on like Pocahontas and the Powhatans and all the various characters in the movies, the Jamestown Yorktown Foundation, the United States National Park Service, First Nation Seeker, and most importantly, the Powhatan Museum of Indigenous Arts and Culture. And on that note, though, before we actually get back into, where we left off, I'm actually, Grace, going to request that it be handed back to you and give us just a quick recap of what went down last week, not including any of like the real world history, just like straight up where we left off in the movie Pocahontas. Yeah.
Okay. So
I have time to drink some of my coffee.
So in the film itself, we started off with John Smith, who is Mel Gibson and blonde, a strapping young Mel Gibson, voiced by Mel Gibson, who's part of the Virginia Company, which was chartered to go colonize the quote unquote New World. Yep. And so we start with John Smith and the rest of the English people, Tom, aka Christian Bale, Thomas, thank you, and is it Governor Radcliffe, Lord Radcliffe?
Yeah, Governor John Radcliffe, yeah.
John Radcliffe, there's a lot of Johns, it's confusing. Right. Who's like the overseer of this journey. They are all on these ships heading to the New World, singing very insulting, offensive songs about murdering Native peoples once they arrive and finding gold. When they do arrive, their method to find gold is just to dig holes. So
digging up on holes. This
was the inspiration, we think, for the book and then movie Holes.
And the movie,
unconfirmed, but potentially.
We'll discuss that in a future episode, perhaps.
And then, meanwhile, on the flippity flip side, already here for the last 12,000 years, we're indeed the Native peoples, and we see specifically our main character, Pocahontas, who in the Disney universe is basically Disney princess, next in line possibly for the chieftain position.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, chief position. But she's kind of a wild child. Her name, Pocahontas, literally means playful, one we've learned. And she's kind of like running around the woods, gets home. Her dad, who just came back from like a most recent kind of like war front, is like, hey, BT dubs, while I was gone, I got you engaged. So get ready to get married to Coco. And Pocahontas is like, I'm going to make a pros and cons list in the woods with my buddy Miko and Flit, who are a raccoon and hummingbird. Another character briefly, what's her name? Best friend's name?
Nakoma. Which they literally only say it once. I gotta admit, at this point, up until this point in the movie, I don't think they said her name. Yeah, and they didn't even say her name when she was there. I was like, what the fuck is her name? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so just generally mentioning her, yes, she's Pocahontas' BFF. She's got great bangs and a cute bun. So she is clearly the fashionista of this whole tribe.
The tribe.
And so anyways, Pocahontas is off in the woods making her pros and cons list about getting married to Coco, who's this great warrior. Pros and cons. She's singing about it. She goes to grandmother Willow, who talks about the dream Pocahontas has been having about like a swirling arrow trying to point her in the right direction. And whilst wandering the woods, she runs into the recently landed John Smith. She does all of the work and learns English in about 18 seconds because the spirits told her. Yeah, John Smith is immediately smitten and head over heels. Also, I was thinking about it. He also was probably just on a boat only with dudes for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, they could have had a good time with each other, but maybe he was really hungry at that moment. He was really missing a woman's touch or something.
It's been a long trip.
Yeah, and that's why I think when he landed, he was like, "See you dudes later." Like,
find me some native ladies.
Yeah, exactly. So I think his like that movies have extra spurred on his like immediately in love with Pocahontas. Sure. He offends her immediately by using the word savages, and she rightfully so. Song insults him, which later gets nominated for an Academy Award because that's how sick that burn was.
I will never get over that fact. I think that's my new like fun fact of the day.
Yeah, that like both that it's an insult song and it was nominated for Academy Award.
Exactly.
So
like, because of that reason too, though, like the lyrics played a part in its nomination and winning.
Yes, truly.
So, anyway,
and it's incredible. And it's basically about how like, hey, you English people keep coming over and fucking stuff up. If you just listen to the native peoples, we could take care of this land. But y'all are why we can't have nice things. Mm-hmm. And then as they're chit-chatting on this little love tryst, they hear basically the war drums. Basically, while that all had been happening, Kocoum and a group of other warriors went to go check out what these white colonizers were up to, these English people. A little tussle breaks out, aka one of the native peoples gets shot in the leg with a musket or a gun. And then they head back home to be like, y'all, this is some bad shit. The white people, the English people are like, we gotta take them down. And then Pocahontas is like, uh-oh, bye, John Smith. Shit's going down at home. See ya. And John Smith is like, no, will I ever see you again? And she's like, your desperation is showing. Bye. Bye. And she leaves, but maybe is also like, I'll call you. And then that's where we left it, is like maybe a war is about to begin. I'm not sure, to be honest. It's all very fuzzy between like here and like the end scene. Oh, yeah. And I also forgot to mention there is a pug. He's here.
Owned by John
Ratcliffe.
Well. He's also around. And yes, actually, that's a good point. I don't really talk about Percy at all, but he does
bring him back up.
Throughout the movie, he like keeps running into Miko and meets the raccoon, and Miko's just like fucking with him the entire time. So they are like totally butting heads and not friends at this point. Because Miko like keeps stealing food from him as well, as if they're not already starving. Amazing. That was great. That was perfect. Perfect recap. It brings us right back to where we left off.
The brink of war.
The brink of war. And I briefly mentioned it last week, but yeah, remembering now how violent this movie actually is. We've seen one person get shot already, like gravely injured, super wild. No blood was shown, obviously, but you see him like fall over holding his leg, like, screaming in pain. Great. We're going to see a lot more in this episode because those war drums were not lying. Battle is about to begin. So a few days have passed since John Smith and Pocahontas first met and were on their however many day long rendezvous throughout the woods of Eastern Virginia, now modern day Eastern Virginia. And so Pocahontas is back in the village and she's picking maize in the fields with her best friend, Nakoma. And, you know, they're just chatting about how things are getting dangerous out there and how they need to stick together. And at this point, like a total creeper, John Smith pops out of nowhere from...
He does?
Yes.
I don't like that.
It's strange. I guess he's pretty good at tracking after all, perhaps. And he tells Pocahontas immediately that he couldn't wait to see her again. He had to see her again.
Did he go back to the rest of the colony? Oh, okay. I was like, he's just been gone for a month now.
Never went back. No, because we do see in that few day span since he and Pocahontas last met, he like got back to the settlement and he was like all sad and gloomy and like everyone else was all working hard digging holes and he's just like getting a few pieces of dirt and just like
God, how much do these like indentured servants fucking hate John Smith?
They start to at this point. Like he's still kind of like their brave leader or whatever, but they're like, John, what are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you? And one of the other laborers is like, oh, he's just mad because he missed all the action, like referring to that little battle with Cocoam's little, spying that was going on there. So John is like rolling his eyes because they're going on talking about, oh, we shot the Indian. Yeah, we did so good. They're savages. And John like puts them in their place. Like, they're not all savages. Calm down. Stop talking about them like that.
Wait, also not all.
Not exactly.
You almost did a good job.
I've
there,
met
John.
one. Not. They had to keep some of the realness.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So anyway, yeah, that's like what you see him going through in that 3-day period. And he's like, I gotta go out and like go for a walk. I gotta find some stuff, whatever. And that's when he like pops out of the cornfield, scaring the shit out of Nakoma. What if
Nakoma had just like shanked him in that moment? Like movie over.
In real life, probably.
Right. Like that's what I would have done. Like I would have been like, this is an attacker jumping out of the corn.
Her stylish bangs were in the way, so she couldn't get her sights on him properly.
She needed to trim them a little bit. They were a little long.
So
I had a nickel for every time. My bangs kept me from shanking someone.
Dude, shanking. Never mind. Yeah. Well, you had me in the first half, but then you lost me.
It's fine.
Cool. So anyway, this scares the shit out of her. And at this point, though, when John says that he wanted to see her again, Nakoma's like, oh shit, Pocahontas. So she realizes that Pocahontas has been going out and fraternizing with this pale stranger. So Pocahontas tells her friend, tells Nakoma to cover for her while she runs off for yet another rendezvous with Smith. Just after they were talking about how dangerous it is and how they need to all stick together. And Nakoma is like, listen,
Pocahontas,
I can't lie for you anymore. You made me do it before and I won't do it again. Like I can't do it. So Pocahontas runs off with John Smith, and hilariously, Nakoma, she just looks so stressed. She's like, so in that moment, I was like, holy shit, Pocahontas may be a really bad friend here.
Yeah, like, is she actually the hero of this story? Like, is she us? Like,
because even though she's going on saying like, I don't want to lie for you, right after Pocahontas walks up, right after Pocahontas runs away, Pocahontas walks up like, where did Pocahontas go? The chief told me that I needed to come watch over her. And she just like gets that look of stress on her face. She's like, I don't know, I haven't seen her.
As like the other basket is laying right next to her.
There.
She just like kicks it behind her.
No clue.
God, she is
no
a good
idea.
friend. Pocahontas is not the best friend.
Pocahontas is, not the best friend, because then Coco actually also gets very worried and is like, well, she needs to like, I don't know, interpret this as y'all will, but he's like, she needs to start listening. Like, she's gonna get herself killed out there. So on one hand, it's like, okay, a little controlling, but on the other hand, these white men are dangerous, as the chief himself said.
And right then, she's just sitting there being like, I've told Pocahontas before, ovaries before broveries, and look what she fucking does.
And look what she does, making me lie for her.
Right, and do her chores.
Yeah. Also,
there was a
corn is
heavy. Right, also like John Smith just left all the chores too.
Yeah, those men are still digging trenches, right, and they're actually in the process too of like refortifying like their settlement, because they are like, oh shit, yeah, war is about to start. We just maybe killed one of their men. Yeah. And so they're like digging for gold, starving, and like refortifying the settlement. And John's like
just like
crying, like staring off. Watching the wind blow.
He's just like
looking
on like
for the wolf crying or howling at the blue corn moon.
He's just like on like the deck of the ship, like his head and like arms just on like the side of the ship, just like humming Colors of the Wind.
Yes. I must find her again.
John.
I mean, he gets what he wants though, because so the two of them, Pocahontas takes John to grandmother Willow. And she's like, I really want you to meet someone. she's special to me. I need you to meet my grandmother.
Oh, what is she doing way out here by herself, super far from anyone else? Oh, she's a tree.
She's a tree. Got it. Oh my God. He's like, you know what? There's no women around. It's been years.
I know. Did he like
just believe that the tree is a talking grandmother?
Just smile and nod, smile and nod, smile and nod.
Yep. Cool.
There is.
And so while they're on their way to visit grandmother Willow, though, also very hilariously, John explains, like, as they're looking at just the beautiful surroundings and everything, John explains, like, I can't believe that we're just going to destroy all of this land for gold.
God, really revealing your hand there, huh, John?
Like, damn, dude. Excuse me? You're still going to do that? I thought that the whole song fixed that.
Do I need to? Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8 animals. Let's go. Where's the bobcat?
Wind, where are you?
Yeah.
But Pocahontas actually comes back at him like, yeah, dude, there's no gold here. And John just like kind of laughs and shrugs it off. He's like, damn, really?
He's like,
oh, well,
we'll still destroy it.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Well, we'll find something. Shit. There's gotta be like tobacco. Shit, fur. We'll find something. Trust me.
Maize is yellow. That's like gold.
We will exploit anything. Oh my God. I'm so happy that you just said that. Okay. Because I just like truncated the hell out of that entire exchange between them. So when John first says, like, yeah, we're just going to destroy this all for gold, Pocahontas is like, gold? What is gold? And he's like, it's the stuff. It's the color gold. And she's like, oh, you mean this? She pulls corn out of her knapsack. Pulls corn out. Yeah. She's like, gold? This, here, you can have it. And he's like, no, not gold. Like I think he shows her like his, not a watch, something. Yeah, a coin. Yeah. That's exactly what he shows her. And she's like, oh, yeah, no. There's none of that here.
That shit.
Yeah. And also, this is tragically intriguing because, like, I'm very happy that the writers leaned into this whole gold rush narrative here because in reality, in real history, the Virginia Company wasted a lot of like money, time, and resources, including losing men during this period where they were loading literally only fool's gold onto their ships. Like they thought that they actually hit the jackpot and then they found out it was all fake gold. It was fool's gold. I forget what the actual scientific name is for it. But
my God.
So that was like a major waste. And I love that the writers put that noted that.
And like I fully imagine that like maybe this somewhere along the way was an actual conversation in which like a colonizer was like, yeah, we're looking for this thing. And then like a native person was like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Like I've never seen that.
Yeah.
But corn here. This is the same color.
Right. It's probably more important. And they were like, well, we've already come all this way. So, we already told them to dig more holes. So it's a little embarrassing if we turned back around now.
So we're just gonna exploit whatever we can find then now.
Great. Good.
Yes, amazing. So anyway, they finally make it to grandmother Willow. And at first, John is just like, this is just a tree. Yes. But then, yes, I think Pocahontas maybe tells him like, listen to the spirits or whatever. And then grandmother Willow appears, rightfully freaking John the fuck out. But kindly of her, she begins to like read his aura or give him some sort of like palm reading. But the spiritual reading is interrupted when they hear two of John's colleagues or like the other laborers out in the woods like yelling his name, looking for them, because they're like, why the fuck did he just run off? As you noted, we are here at the settlement doing all this stuff, and this guy just ran off after looking all sad for no reason. So they like have their guns because, of course, anytime anyone is sent off into the woods, Governor Ratcliffe is like, shoot natives on sight, kill them all, whatever.
Okay.
They're trying to steal our gold. Yeah.
Non-existent gold,
which is not even here. And so these two guys, they're calling his name, yelling, and Grandmother Willow like hides them, underneath her willow. She's like able to, it's magic. Okay. Yeah. And she exposes like her roots and stuff and has all these vines coming down, messing with these two guys that are chasing or that are looking for him. And so it like scares them away. And hilariously, as they're running away, they're like, oh, let Smith fend for himself. Like, and he like hears it.
Fuck this guy.
And it's even funnier because in the first half of the movie, I mentioned it briefly, but when Smith like jumped off of the ship to save Thomas, when like they were like all on rough waters, when Smith brought him back on the ship, all the crewmen were looking at him like, are you insane? He was like, you guys would have done it for me, right?
It's like crickets.
Crickets are like, sure. And then now they're proving.
Mop the deck. My mom's calling. I gotta go.
Gotta go. And so now it's like nothing even as serious. It's like they get tripped up by roots and like vines, and they're like, fuck this guy. Yeah.
We're out.
They're like, let him fend for himself. So anyway, at this point though, since John realizes that they're actually out looking for him, he decides that he should go ahead and get back to camp and tells Pocahontas that they should meet back here at Grandmother Willow's later tonight.
Wait.
That.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so he goes off back to the settlement, and Pocahontas stays back, looking all like conflicted, not knowing what to do, and asks. It does. Like you said, she's been weighing her pros and cons for the past several days now about marrying Cocoam or going off on some other new adventure. And so Pocahontas asks Grandmother Willow if being with John is right and if it has anything to do with her dream. And Grandmother Willow she actually might be one of my favorite characters in this movie. She's so sassy because she responds like this whole time. I'm not really like quoting her much in these episodes, but she's been like so like for the tea and all this, like so excited hearing about Pocahontas getting engaged to Cocoam, but also seeing that like, oh, there's also John. She's like, this is the most excitement that's come around this tree in a long time. Like she's so into it.
She's the gossip. You go, Grandma.
So when Pocahontas asks her if John has anything to do with her dream, Grandmother Willow's like, I don't know.
Just like
maybe you should find out.
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Yes.
She's like, good thing y'all are coming back here tonight because I want to know too.
Oh, I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Grandma
You're welcome
Willow.
anytime. So Pocahontas also returns to the village, and she gets back to see that they are all full out at this point preparing for war, and that all of these neighboring tribes and all of these other 30 however many tribes in the Confederacy have arrived and are ready to join them in battle. And so Pocahontas is like, oh shit, like this is for real going down. Yeah. And also like Grandmother Willow thinks that maybe John and me have like this, there's a key somewhere here that can stop all of this.
Grandma Willow just said, I don't know.
Right, but she can tell though that something like she thinks that she can be reasoned with. Yes.
Okay, there's something.
So exactly. So she runs and talks to her dad, and she tries to assure him that the pale strangers, some of them maybe we can negotiate with, some of them we can talk to. We don't need to see all of this violence. And she tells him like, hey, if one of them may be willing to negotiate, then shouldn't you be willing to negotiate too? And the chief is like, yeah, you're right. I agree. But it's just not that simple. Like a true establishment-minded leader. It's like, you're absolutely correct. That is something that could happen, but it's just not that easy. So we're going to go to war anyway.
Sorry. So no matter where it is, war is money. I mean, that simple.
It's not that simple. So at this point, Smith has also returned to camp, And Ratcliffe is like, where have you been, man? Like, where do you keep running off to? I need you.
Accurate question.
Very good question. What am I paying you for? Or like, what is this company paying you for? You're literally never here.
I'm not doing shit.
And so Ratcliffe is like, I need you out here leading these men to start hunting and killing these natives. We need to get them out of here because they're trying to steal our gold. And John refuses. He's like, they're not savages. They're not terrible. We need to reason with them. They can be reasoned with, and they're going to help us learn how to know the land. They can help us settle and find food. And so hilariously, when John is saying all this, like defending the natives, Thomas comes out of nowhere, voiced by Christian Bale. And he's just like, John, what's gotten into you? Like everyone's looking at him all crooked. Like, what's all this mess y'all talking about supporting these natives?
Also, part of me just wishes, and I'm going to ignore the way you just said it, which was great, but that Christian Bale still uses Newsies accent from like the film probably before this one from instead like just did that. Like Thomas, played by Christian Bale, established the New York accent in the New World. Anyway,
long before they knew there would be a New York. I guess it was John was going in. I can't even.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna try, but that's just what I'm picturing instead.
That's great. Yeah, pretty much. Christian Bale, a man of many accents. I actually like don't know what his real voice sounds like. I always forget where he's from because every movie I've seen him in, he has a different accent. So I'm like, I think he's British or maybe like Australian. I don't know. Anyway, so at this point, Ratcliffe, he tells John, like, no, you need to go out, lead this group and fight against the natives. And because they're hoarding our gold. Like, they'll do anything to keep it. So we can't trust them. We need to get rid of them immediately. Yikes. And at this point, John's like, dude, there isn't any gold here. All the workers are like,
it's like mid digging the hole and they're just like, there's not what now?
And Ratcliffe is like, enough. No, don't listen to him. This man's lying. Anyone who doesn't kill an Indian on sight is going to be tried and hanged for treason. Now, he actually says that.
Oh, he says that?
But he says that straight up. Again, this movie is super violent, actually, for like a Disney Renaissance movie.
Damn. Yes. Okay.
So, back at the village, Pocahontas sneaks out once again for another rendezvous with John, but so that they can try to negotiate peace between their respective peoples. In Nakoma, again, she's like, Pocahontas, you can't go out. She's like, again, she's like, no, seriously, I mean it this time, Pocahontas, I'm putting my foot down. I will not lie for you. I won't do it. Like, it was so stressful lying to Coco last time. I'm not going to do it again. And Nakoma, she's that girl because literally like 5 minutes after Pocahontas leaves, she goes straight to Coco. She goes straight to him and
done with her friend's shit.
She's done. She's like, no, Coco, Pocahontas is in trouble. I don't know exactly where she is, but you need to go track her and find her and protect her right now. So,
you know what? She was being a good friend in this moment. Yeah,
she was. Yes, she was. More on that in a moment, though.
Okay.
So John Camp, oh my God, John Smith has also snuck out of camp as well at this point. But as he's sneaking out, Ratcliffe spots him and tells Thomas to follow and shoot any natives that he sees. Because they're all like, we got to find out where John Smith is going. I feel like he's onto something and he's not telling us. So you follow him, confront him if you see him doing anything weird, and kill anyone if you see them attacking.
Also, like, John Smith, this hero who literally can plunge into the like screaming ocean to save someone. Let's send this 15-year-old boy to confront him.
Let's confront him.
We're all too scared to confront him. Get
the
after
boy who he saved, by the way, who like owes him his life.
You go confront him. Have you ever shot a gun before? You'll figure it out.
Hilariously, Ratcliffe shits on him earlier in the movie about how Thomas is terrible at shooting a gun. Yeah, literally.
This is going back to your point earlier that just who like the richest investor is gets to be in charge. This man clearly has no managerial experience.
None. That's exactly how he does not know what he's doing.
No.
Okay. So John and Pocahontas meet back up at Grandmother Willow's, and Grandmother Willow finally gets back to reading John's fortune, which was so rudely interrupted earlier by those other colonizers. Sure. And she tells John that he and Pocahontas are the key to ending the fighting. Ooh. I forget exactly what she tells him, but that's like the gist of it. Okay. Because at this point, he's like, wow, you're right, Pocahontas. I will agree to talk to the chief now. Like, take me to him. Okay. Let's try to negotiate something so that we can end the violence and maybe open up some like valuable trade and alliances for both of us.
Cool.
And so this total acquiescence to Pocahontas's plan all along, him agreeing to meet the chief, leads to Pocahontas laying a nice big sloppy one on him, immediately showing her affection. However, Cocoam and Thomas both see this going down from behind the trees. It's actually super intense and stressful for that big, the tension that builds up to the first kiss moment. Yeah. Like the tension continues after they're kissing. You just hear like these drums beating and you see Cocoam like looking so angry and Thomas looking so shocked. Shocked. Like, what the fuck?
I do not remember this. Oh my God. Okay.
It's intense because then Cocoam starts doing like his warrior shout, runs out of the trees, attacks John.
What?
Attacks John. They get into this brawl on site. Like they're still under Grandmother Willow, by the way.
And she's again just like
almighty.
Yeah, she's like, let's see who it's gonna be. Fight to the death, boys.
Fight to the death for Pocahontas's love. Yes.
Thomas, what are you doing? Get in that fight.
What are you doing? He does. Because just when it looks like Cocoam is going to land the deathly blow on John Smith, Thomas, he pulls up his breeches and fires his gun and lands right on Cocoam, shooting him dead.
He shoots him?
He kills him.
Dead?
Dead. Pocahontas literally says, you killed him. He is killed by Thomas.
What?
He gets shot. Yes.
What?
Dude, this movie is violent. Yes.
I don't remember any of this.
I didn't either.
Pocahontas goes to her pros and cons list. Con. Dead.
Can't build sturdy home anymore.
Pro. Can't boss me around. She shows it to Grandmother Willow, who like nods and sips her tea.
Pro. As a callback to your last episode. One less mouth to feed.
Wow. Okay, but this is truly blowing my mind that he died.
I totally forgot that they killed him. I totally forgot. But it makes sense because it leads to really the climax of the movie. Like I would say that's
very
the force,
stressed
the
out
thing
right
that,
now.
Yes. So at this point, John tells Thomas to get the hell out of there, like get back to camp, run, because otherwise they're gonna fucking kill you. And
right,
so
and
John
he's already like made the call for other people to come and
exactly. So yikes, getting tense here. And immediately like Powhatan warriors move into the scene and arrest John Smith because he takes the blame for it because he's like, Thomas, get the fuck out, go, I'll take the fall.
Yeah.
And so, Cocoam dying is really like, that's the final straw for the chief at this point. Because this guy, not only was he about to be his son-in-law, or at least the chief thought that he was about to be his son and was planning on him becoming his son-in-law, but he was also his greatest warrior and was like, he's essentially like his right-hand man. Like he sent him out to do all of these like special missions and everything. So this was like killing a top general of a foreign country's military.
This is wild.
This is war. So
this is so intense for a Disney movie.
I know. Grace. Like side note, I honestly think like between this and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, like that's a random side note, but that's another movie that gives me so much stress.
That is the crimes of the Catholic Church. Well, maybe we'll do that around Easter.
Ooh. All right, you guys heard it here first. come back in April or March. I don't know when Easter is next year for that arc. But anyway, like, yeah,
get ready.
Some very, very like I just see how they get some shit. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
I see why they get some shit to this day, and even back then, I think. Anyway,
yes.
So yeah, the other warriors that bring John back to the village explain to the chief that he was the one who killed Cocoam. And it was because Cocoam went out looking for Pocahontas, because the chief didn't realize that Pocahontas was gone, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the chief fucking rips her a new one. He literally, in front of everybody, in front of like the entire village, he like blames her, saying it was her fault that Cocoam's dead. She should have listened and stayed at camp. Not totally wrong, but also like kind of sadly, Nakoma comes up to her after like, I'm so sorry. I'm the one that told him to go after you. This is totally my fault that he died. Like Nakoma blames herself. Aww. And Pocahontas is like, no, I mean, it's my fault. I've been like getting it on with John Smith. That's on me. That's on me.
Do not make your best friend feel bad about this.
Exactly. She's already been a bad enough friend. Pocahontas has been. So good for her being like, no, it is my fault. Whatever.
Yeah.
So the tribe, they hold Smith prisoner and they sentence him to death at daybreak, clearly as an act of war, escalating this conflict, saying tomorrow it's officially going to get started. It's on. Okay. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just overwhelmed by my remembrance of the movie has none of this violence in my head. It's like,
I know
there's tension, like I just don't remember like people getting shot and dying. I didn't
remember like a full-fledged battle being planned. Like it's like I remember literally just the colors of the wind and like Nico and Flit.
Right. And I'm like, I know like at some point like so what I thought was gonna happen was like they smooch and then like John Smith and Pocahontas go back and then immediately they're like, you brought a colonizer in here, we're just gonna imprison him. And I thought that's how he got in prison, was like Pocahontas brought him back. But I didn't realize this because a murder took place.
Of her like to-be fiance. It's like, oh yeah, and there was a love triangle. That's right. Oh my God.
Right. I'm just overwhelmed right now, is what that side was.
Yes. Okay.
That's it.
Cool. Yeah. But that's good because that gets us all caught back up to speed as to just how wild this movie was for a bunch of remind you, we were only like 2 when this came out.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So we probably were watching it really when it came out on VHS, but still when we were like 4 or 5. We obviously did not. Yeah, we obviously did not catch any of this shit and do not remember it from when we were younger.
Yeah.
So anyway, as Smith is being taken prisoner, Thomas, he returns to the settlement and tells the group that the natives have taken Smith and that they're holding him captive. And at this point, Ratcliffe is like, oh, fucking perfect. Now we can totally like get all of these guys against the natives. They love John.
Thomas mention that he shot?
He does. No. So he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't mention that he shot and he killed anyone, and he doesn't mention that he saw John and Pocahontas kissing either.
He's just
he's held prisoner.
Captured.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Pretty
they just
shady.
Took him.
Thomas.
Yes, actually, true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Just gonna throw that out there. Christian Bale, come on.
What are you doing?
Do better.
You didn't ask for a rewrite on that line. Come on.
Come on.
So Ratcliffe, though, he takes this opportunity to rally up the troops and just sow hatred against the natives. He's like, forget all that stuff that John was talking about before. They've got your fearless leader, John. We have to go get him. We're going to fight at daybreak. We're going to get him. So like funny, like they're on the same page actually as Powhatan's like, yeah, daybreak. Let's get it. Let's go. I guess it's just like war speak. That's the universal time to start. Yeah, pretty much. I think so. So Pocahontas, meanwhile, ignores her father once more, leaves the village on her own, unannounced, and visits grandmother Willow yet again, telling her that John is going to be executed. And grandmother Willow tells Pocahontas that whatever she can do However, whatever means necessary, she has to stop the chief from killing him, because that is going to bring peace to the two tribes, or to the two peoples. And so she's feeling totally at fault and useless, like kind of crying and just like wallowing in her pain under Grandmother Willow. And Miko, in an attempt to, I guess, maybe lift her spirits, drops down from a vine and hands her actually the compass that he stole from Smith's bag the day earlier, or several days earlier. And Pocahontas is like, what is this thing? And it pops open and she notices an arrow spinning, going in circles. What? And her and Grandmother Willow look at each other, and immediately like the light bulb goes off. And she's like, oh my God, it's the arrow from your dream.
This is so wild.
I know, right? Like, I really did not remember any of this stuff.
Yeah, truly.
Like, damn. Yeah.
Wow.
So
putting it all together.
Yes, it's coming full circle. The spirits guide Pocahontas down her path of prophecy, and she runs through the woods quickly to make it back to the village in time before daybreak, to stop John Smith's execution and the impending massacre. Let's be real. Literally like chasing sunlight, like she sees the sunrise coming and she just runs faster and faster. And on one hand, we see the natives like dragging John out to this like cliffside where they're gonna like, I guess, like just hit him in the head with the I don't think they're gonna chop it off. It was like a mallet looking thing. They were just probably just gonna like bludgeon him to death, I think. And you also see like the settlers at Jamestown are also like loading up their muskets and getting all their stuff together and marching over towards the tribe.
Very intense.
It's just a race against the clock and against the sunlight.
Against the sun, against nature.
Against time. But Pocahontas is a master of nature, and she makes it there just in time, jumping over John's body right as the chief begins to throw down his whatever weapon.
Good thing the chief has good reflexes. Just saying, or else that would have been real awkward.
He was about to lose a son-in-law and his actual daughter in a 24-hour period. So at this point, the chief is like, daughter, like, what are you doing? Because remember, he has no clue that she's been sneaking out with John Smith. And Pocahontas explains that she can't let him kill John because she loves him. Like, what?
I do kind of remember this. Doesn't she like throw herself over him or something?
Like literally, like like tarping him essentially. And John just looks so like try to hit this now, Dad. But like, John looks so like helpless and just like, oh, Pocahontas, thank you. You've saved me, my love. So like actually also kind of cool how, again, strong female lead. He's like, damn, I would have died if it weren't for you.
Right, like she is the hero here.
She is. And so at this point, the chief, he listens to his daughter, hearing how she's somehow over in like the last week fallen in love, unbeknownst to him, fallen in love with this pale stranger. Shock. Oh, didn't want to marry Kocoum after all. Well, this is awkward.
Sorry.
And he like kind of looks down over the cliff and sees like Governor Ratcliffe and his men approaching, and all of his, neighboring tribes of Chief Powhatan's neighboring tribes are lined up below him, ready to fight. And he like takes it all in and realizes a lot of people are about to die if
I may have gotten caught up in the frenzy.
I'm still pretty pissed that Kocoum is dead and that Namatak got shot in the leg, because we don't have the medicine to fix him. So I think he actually might be dead now too.
Yeah, that's getting infected now.
Right now. This kind of sucks. They're clearly destroying our land. But, Pocahontas, you have a point. And this guy has amazing hair, I've got to add. So let's call off the violence. And he orders his warriors to surrender and retreat, saying that there will be no killing from this day forward.
Wow.
And I would also like to
listen to that agreement.
Well, did not. I'll get to that in a second. But I would also like to note that at this point, only the white people are the ones who have done any killing, mind you, by the way. Yes. So Disney also put that in there. Anyway.
Ooh, that was clever of Disney. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that more as well later.
Okay.
But so John Smith is freed, and he and Pocahontas immediately embrace. right in front of everyone. And
awkward. Dad's right there.
Right there. He's kind of smiling though, I guess, but it is weird. But Nakoma hilariously is like, yay, my bestie found true love. While then it like turns to the guys in the Virginia company, aka like John's friends, and they're all like, what? Like, whoa. John, what's going into you?
John, what's gotten into you? And like Thomas is like backing up slowly because he definitely is the one who murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and he, but also trying to act equally as surprised, like, oh wow, yeah, I had no clue John was hooking up with this native girl.
Practicing his surprise face. Whoa, what?
Whoa, whoa, wow.
Wow. Who is that?
But as you noted before, even though the chief said there will be no more killing today, the settlers were not quite on the same page. Yeah. Ratcliffe is like, oh, nice. They're distracted. Time to fire. Grab your guns now, men. Get the muskets. And the men, though, they're like, clearly seeing that Powhatan is offering them a chance at peace and, you know, a chance to negotiate. So they just all look at Ratcliffe like, hell no, dog, no.
Oh, thank God, okay.
Like, yeah, we're not about to do that. And Ratcliffe, though, he is unwilling to negotiate, unwilling to seek peace and trying to, like, maintain this tough, strong man. I am your ruler. I will be your governor, aura. So he grabs one of the guns from someone and fires directly at the chief. Directly at him.
Oh, shit.
Violence. But don't worry, everyone. There's a brave European man here to save the day right after almost being bludgeoned to death. John Smith, he sees Ratcliffe pulling out the rifle to shoot at the chief. He stops hugging and kissing Pocahontas, leaps across screen to save Chief Powhatan, and takes the bullet in the chief's place.
Wow.
Yeah. So Ratcliffe actually shoots John instead. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because John's long blonde locks were absolutely bouncing and behaving in slow-mo as he leapt across the screen to save the chief. And at that point, like all of the laborers down below with Ratcliffe, they're like, you just shot John. What the hell, man?
Bro?
What the fuck? And Ratcliffe's like, he ran in front of the bullet. It's his fault. He made himself get shot. And the crew is obviously like, no, okay, we're done. And they like immediately mutiny and turn on Ratcliffe. Also because this whole time, like I didn't write this in, but like we just constantly see Ratcliffe like on his fat ass, not doing work, bossing everyone around, staying dry and warm in his like luxurious massive tent and eating all day, just petting Percy, his dog. And he has like a servant who brings him his meals and everything, like a squire, I guess, or whatever. And also like now they realize that Ratcliffe was lying about the gold the whole time and like has no fucking clue what he's doing. So yeah, they're like, all right, you're our prisoner now. So they outnumber him, take him, they like bound and gag him and like wrap him around and like chains around him. It's actually sweet karma. Anyway, so at this point, the rest of the men are like, well, I guess we'll pack up ship and go home.
Wait, this is what they do in the movie? That's how they end it?
Yep. After that, they're like, well, I guess we're going to head home to London to like brief the king.
Now of like what should have happened.
We're going to like brief the king, tell him what's going down here, maybe like at your own risk if you want to send more investment over this way.
But like there's no
Here's
gold.
The lay of the land. Yeah, there is no gold, but there is lots of other stuff, I guess. So like, let's go home and tell the king. And they take Ratcliffe as a prisoner. Nice. And at this point, Pocahontas goes back and she brings a group of Powhatans with her to deliver food to these settler men as they're like packing up their ship and everything to prepare to head home. And Thomas like bashfully kind of comes up to her, like kind of rubbing like, yeah, so John's got to come back with us because like he got shot. If he stays here, like he's gonna die. Which also though, like it's a multi-month trip back on clearly dangerous waters.
Probably like medicine, like they
know how to stitch.
Like,
they can stitch.
Like,
exactly. They can cauterize and stitch you.
Yeah,
at
are you
a minimum.
Like throw salt water from the boat on him for 5 months?
He's like absolutely going to get scurvy and like gangrene.
He's definitely going to die on that ship. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, and also you can just like see like the shame in his eyes. Like he can't even look Pocahontas in the eyes. Like, sorry, right, also I killed your fiance. JK, he doesn't actually say sorry, but like you can cut the awkwardness with a knife. So Pocahontas, she understands, and she tells John, like, yeah, I get it. You need to go back. You need to get healthy. And the chief comes up, and by the way, John is like laying on like not like a gurney or whatever, but I don't know, it's like a little makeshift whatever that they've made. Is that even the right word, a gurney? Maybe it is. I don't know.
So like what they're like carrying him on? Exactly.
Yeah. And he's like his like whole torso is just wrapped in bandages because he just got like shot right in the torso. And he's just like very weak and tired. And the chief comes up to him and says, John, you are always welcome here among our peoples. We would love to have you back one day. And in a last-ditch effort, John begs Pocahontas to come with him to join them on their journey back to London. But she decides that she must stay as she is needed there. So all that shit about the prophecy with their dream and everything, I have no clue. I guess it meant nothing after all. Like, I guess it meant that no one died that day, but nothing about whatever. Yeah. Anyway, over it. She's over it. She's like, oh, wait, like, now I don't have to marry Coco or John Smith.
Yeah, she was like,
I'm free.
Point Pocahontas.
Yes.
She just like has her pros and cons list and she just scratches both of their names off of it slowly.
New pro and con list, all about me. She's like, I gotta stay here. I'm needed here. And John is like, well, okay, then like, I'll stay. I don't have to go. And Pocahontas is like,
overstaying your welcome.
No, like our medicine is so bad here. Like, you have to go home and you know it. He's like, yeah, okay. And she's like, whatever happens, we'll like always remember each other or whatever, you know?
Like, I'll totally right.
Totes right. We're gonna be pen pals. Don't worry, I'll still know English. It's gonna be awesome. And so
no hard feelings.
Yeah, we're cool. And so they kiss once more, and then like he's carted off towards the ship. And they set for sea. But as they start heading out, Pocahontas, she's like overcome with emotion. So she runs through the woods, through the forest, back up to the top of that cliff from the beginning of the movie, coming full circle. And she gets one last glance at the majestic British vessel, probably the Discovery, and her majestic golden-locked British man, and waves goodbye, or the Algonquin goodbye, one last time, as the ship sails off into the pink sunset or sunrise. I don't know. I don't know. And that is the end of the movie, Pocahontas.
I guess I also didn't remember that they didn't stay together at the end of this film. I thought they did.
They did not. Yes. And and actually that takes us literally right into, I think, what we've all been waiting for, the creative liberties versus historic realities of this movie.
Yeah, I thought that they were, okay, go, just tell me.
Let's just jump into it, because this is actually, I have a couple pages of notes on this. So, first and foremost, literally like the most glaring of inaccuracies. Obviously, they didn't end up going away together at the end of the movie, Pocahontas and John Smith, but like they were never, ever even in a relationship with one another. There is no written historical account anywhere of those two ever having any sort of romantic relationship. Specifically because at the time that John Smith landed in what was then called Jamestown, he was about 28 years old And Pocahontas was probably somewhere between 10 and 11 years old.
What?
So not the young adult that was depicted in the movie. And I do not think that John Smith would have risked any sort of romantic relationship with the young daughter of the chief rather than like the full-grown adult, like childbearing age daughter of the chief.
Whoa, what?
So yeah, those two literally never had any sort of romantic relationship.
Wow.
But they did come into contact with each other multiple times during his time helping to establish the Jamestown settlement. However, a lot of the communicating that he did, it wasn't like through Pocahontas with the chief. He actually like went to the chief himself. So I guess, you know, when he was brought in as prisoner, I think I mentioned it earlier. Was that in last week's episode or earlier today? Either way, he was at one point brought in as a prisoner to the Powhatan tribe, like shortly after they first arrived, shortly after the colonists first arrived. And at this point, like, that's when they started the basis of negotiation and the direct line of communication between them. So his observances of Pocahontas was really just like, she was there. She was here. She seems to have this relationship with her father.
Being like, wow, there's a kid in the room debating whether I should be like beheaded or not. Cool.
And actually, so there is some dispute between like historians and Powhatans about whether or not Pocahontas actually ever saved John Smith's life. Because so apparently John Smith wrote a couple of times in some of like his notes or books or whatever about his expeditions that she did inform him like 2 or 3 times that like when he was visiting the tribe for various reasons that people were going to kill him while he was there. So he would like be on the ready and be prepared, but it never actually happened. Well, so a lot of historians think
real quick.
Yeah.
And say my theory before you give like the actual real historians like research theory is that like Pocahontas and her friends were just fucking with him. They're like, watch this shit.
Honestly, I
kill you. And they all like giggle.
Little brat, the playful one. That's like she was known for playing tricks on like the little like settler boys around Jamestown, which I'll get to that in just a second too. But yeah, so I honestly speculate the exact same thing. But I also believe what historians likely believe was true, which is that both of these things can be true, that John Smith was also embellishing a lot of these stories because, as I said in last week's episode, he was essentially hired as like the chief propagandist of the Virginia Company to write about all of these adventures and experiences and to make it seem like, no, some of these natives can be trusted. Some of them like, oh my God, I'm such a hero. Look at all the things I had to go through and look at the adventure you can have out here as long as you know how to negotiate and work hard. So some people think that he exaggerated stories of her saving him. So yeah, that probably didn't happen. Like it did in the movie. Yep. And anyways, as I mentioned before, Pocahontas, she did like, even though she was like fraternizing with John very closely in the movie, she did not do that with really any of the settlers that we know of, you know, while she was still with the Powhatan tribe, but she did play with some of the boys around Jamestown that were like her age, you know, when they eventually came, like, as children do, you know, like, hey, we're playing like kids. And so apparently this is something I literally found this from the Powhatan Museum's website. Like this was not on Wikipedia, which I found very interesting, nor on like any of the other non-native run websites that I read through for this. Apparently, Pocahontas was married to Kocoum when she was about 15 years old in real life. Yes. No. But there are no accounts by any of the English settlers referring to this or referring to any children. But apparently they were married for 3 years. Whoa. And some historians think that this stuff may have been scrubbed from some of like the settlers' records or like whatever to like help support the propaganda. Whoa. Because, and this is where her story takes a very dramatic and tragic turn. Yeah. Just a few years after John Smith left Jamestown, And so, yeah, like 3 years after she married Kocoum too, Pocahontas was kidnapped by colonists. And while she was in their custody, she was converted to Christianity and was baptized under the name Rebecca. Ooh. And so her kidnapping, it occurred while she was making her way to visit, I think, another Powhatan tribe. And the Powhatan like museum's website, they say that they believe that it was actually a plot between a lesser chief of the Japazal tribe. I don't know if they were Powhatan or if they were like Algonquin or Iroquois or what, but apparently a lesser chief of that tribe worked with a man named Samuel Argall, who happened to be the captain of the ship where Pocahontas was held captive and later baptized. So they think that there was some sort of conspiracy between those two to kidnap her in exchange for something. And while she was kidnapped after being baptized on this ship, she was then married off to a man named John Rolfe, who was a tobacco planter and colonist. And this was when she was about 17 or 18 years old. Dude. And she ended up having a child with John Rolfe, a son by the name of Thomas Rolfe. And so essentially they were
Did she get taken back to England?
Mm-hmm. They were shipping her off on Samuel Argall's ship to take her straight back to England as John Rolfe's wife and the mother of his new child, so that they could essentially show her off to British royalty. And unfortunately use her as like a propaganda prop for like, again, I hate this, but for like the being civilized like, savage. Civilized. Exactly. Oh my God. And how like, hey, look, if you come and settle in the new world, this is totally safe. Or it could be, because look at what we've done with her. And like, look at how great she is. Look at it, great. And then you'll have this beautiful mixed colored baby. Oh my God. Oh my God. And so he took her to London in 1616 to show her off. And she was like treated like a celebrity there. And it's kind of, sort of, not really the basis of Pocahontas 2, which
that's why I was
a direct-to-video movie. Yes. Yeah. Direct-to-video. It is also on Disney Plus, though, if anyone wants to watch it. But at the time, coincidentally, that Pocahontas was sent to London and married off to John Rolfe, the Virginia Company happened to also be facing massive financial burdens and was entirely strapped for cash.
Oh my God. So it was literally like a
fundraising prop.
A marketing. Oh my God, a marketing scheme.
Literally, like they raised a lot of money during her trip there. Like I think a lot more people invested in the company as a result of her being there. Yeah, straight up.
Whoa.
And very sadly, Pocahontas never returned from this journey across the pond. She died a year later, around age 20 or 21, from unknown causes on the ship. Yes, so they left the United Kingdom to return back to Virginia, but shortly after they disembarked, they had to like go back on shore somewhere else in the United Kingdom. And she ended up dying there. So like they didn't even make it really out of like British waters before she died. And even more sadly, her burial site to this day is unknown because the church where she was buried was rebuilt after being destroyed by a fire. So I suppose like they know what church it is, but they just don't know which actual grave site is hers.
Whoa.
This was not how Pocahontas 2 ended. Let me say.
Well,
she gets in a relationship with John Rolfe in that movie and like travels to London to like meet the royal family and everything and like show off and all this stuff.
So John Smith isn't even in it? This is like a whole new love?
He is in it, but yes, she's in a whole new love. And she actually thinks that John Smith has died because someone, I think Ratcliffe. So Ratcliffe is also in the second movie. And at one point he sees her at like court with the royal family and tells her like, shame that John Smith isn't with us anymore. Like alluding that he's dead, even though he knows that he's not. It's a whole thing. Maybe next Thanksgiving I'll do that movie.
Yeah,
it's not that good. I've put it on like a couple times, like because I had to watch this movie a couple times to write this, and every time after I watch this, I just put the second one on too. I literally always lose attention after like 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, I gotta like cook dinner now. I don't know, like turn it off.
Anything better to do.
So I know that it doesn't end with her dying. It ends with her and John Rolfe sailing back to Virginia. Actually, to be fair, I don't think it shows them get back to Virginia, but it alludes that it does not. It does
They're
not
like,
make
okay,
any mention of her
bye.
death or her. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so
Wow.
last but not least, one more glaring historical
Omission.
difference or real world difference that I just so the juicy karma. I have to say it.
Yes.
The Governor John Ratcliffe.
In
his
real
story
life.
In real life ended very differently.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So I mentioned it last week, but he started as the captain in real life. He started as the captain of the smallest of the 3 ships on the Virginia Company's expedition to the New World. And from there, and so just right off the bat, the smallest of the 3 ships, like the biggest ship had like maybe 200 or 300 crew member and like employees on it. Ratcliffe's had like 30.
Oh,
so he wasn't really like high up in rank in like the expedition. But when they established Jamestown, he became a counselor for the colony. And he actually ended up being the 2nd president of the colony about like 5 or 6 months after they landed. But he either resigned or was removed from power about a year later. So all of this is to say that like when they arrived there, he wasn't actually already the one in charge. And the ship that he was on was one of 3 and was the smallest. So he like had the least authority of all the leaders there anyway. Even though they're painting him as like some movie. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's interesting because they make him seem like such a money grubbing capitalist. And I think part of it may be, I don't know, to be fair, like one of the other guys is the other captain. I think he was like the captain of the whole armada and like of the biggest of the 3 ships. His name was like Christopher Newport. And I feel like that just sounds like too much of like no, we want to put respect on the name Christopher Newport. Or
I wonder if even just like, I was gonna say Ratcliffe kind of sounds evil. It makes me think of like Great Mouse Detective. Like,
although some of what I'll say next could also maybe explain why they chose him. Although to be fair, I also didn't really research the other 2 captains that much because I'm like, they're not in this movie. I don't really care about them.
Yep.
So Ratcliffe became president, but he fell out of favor with a lot of the colonists because one of his first orders as president, while like people were on the brink of starvation and like still trying to figure out this land and how to survive against the natives, he told the men to build him a governor's house.
Sir.
And he was also just like a very poor leader when it came to handling trade with the natives, as the movie clearly kind of like tried to point out. So when Ratcliffe was elected president in 1607, like the end of 1607, a few months after they got there, he asked John Smith, so he did work closely with John Smith, to organize work details and expeditions to trade with the natives. But so he was elected president in September 1607. By January of 1608, I think like only 38 colonists remained. And remember, I said there were 3 ships and there were like 200 or more on the one, and that Ratcliffe's only had like 30 something. Yeah, there were only 38 colonists still alive a few months after. From the entire Armada? Initial. Yeah. And so Ratcliffe and the Jamestown Council planned to return to England on the Discovery. And at this point, Smith was like starting to complain to Ratcliffe about how he was like too over generous with trading, or like not really taking the natives seriously and like their good faith efforts to bring food or whatever. And so he warned Ratcliffe, like, we are legitimately about to run out of items to trade and to survive. And boy, oh boy, was John Smith correct, because Governor Ratcliffe, along with several other colonists, died in 1609 during what was called, quote unquote, the starving time.
Oh, I don't like that.
A period of starvation that struck the Jamestown colony in the winter of 1609 through early 1610. where at the beginning of the winter, as I kind of mentioned before, there were about 500 residents. And at the end, there were like, somewhere around 40 or so.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's a lot of,
it's
that's
terrifying.
Fast.
It's bad. It's bad. That's literally one winter.
Yeah, that's a lot of people one winter.
But Ratcliffe did not die from the starvation. No. Apparently, he was invited to a gathering by the Powhatan tribe. And this is, again, shortly after he resigned from the presidency. So now he's just going kind of like as a diplomat, whatever. And I think specifically it was the Pamunkey tribe, so the tribe that Pocahontas was in.
Okay.
The Powhatans promised the starving colonists for food in exchange for copper. But instead, upon Ratcliffe's arrival, the colonists were ambushed by the tribe members, straight up ambush. And so I think like a couple of the colonists got away, but the rest of them were murdered. And John Ratcliffe was tied to a stake in front of a fire while a Powhatan woman removed his skin from his body, tossing it into a flame in front of him as he watched, saving his face for last, and then burning him at the stake after they took his face skin off.
Pretty badass and hardcore.
It's badass and hardcore and very different from the ending of Pocahontas.
That's the director's cut ending.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the NC-17.
You had to get your parents' signature to go see that. They sewed his face back on for Pocahontas 2. So,
right, you see him at royal court and everyone's like avoiding him.
Oh, jeez. He's got like the burn marks and like the stitches. Oh, God, he really fucked up in Jamestown. They did not take him well down there. So I could go on and on. I can talk about the Indian Massacre of 1622, aka the Jamestown Massacre, where Powhatan's brother, Wahasanaka's brother, aka Pocahontas's uncle, who was the new chief of the Powhatans of that time, essentially led the Powhatan Confederacy and a surprise attack against the Virginia colony, killing about 350 people, which was about a quarter of their overall population. And this was at the height of the Virginia Company's like bankruptcy. So it was almost the end of the Virginia Company, but we'll go ahead and we'll just stop right there.
Almost. So close. I mean,
almost got him. What? No. And yes, so that is a little bit of the real world history behind Pocahontas. In addition,
I don't remember that ending in the movie.
I don't
either.
What
an interesting song would go along with those scenes.
Dude, just imagine Pocahontas has bars for days. Oh boy. I imagine she wrote some wild songs on her slave trip over to the United Kingdom.
Yeah, she had a lot to say, rightfully so. Wow, great job.
Thank you.
Really good work.
And yeah, so we've, not only have we learned a lot this month about, some of the original settlers and colonists from Jamestown to Plymouth, but we also learned a lot about some very important, interesting Native American tribes from the Wampanoags in Plymouth, and now the various Powhatan tribes in Virginia and along the East Coast. So this has been fun. It's been a fun month. This has been great.
Yeah, I like our holiday arcs.
Me too. And I guess that's good because we're doing one more, aren't we?
Yeah.
Or at least one more.
About to be December.
It is.
Buckle up.
Thanksgiving is over. Santa showed himself at the Thanksgiving Day parade. So I guess now we have to put up Christmas decorations or whatever and stop talking about turkey and start spending money on people. Consumerism, here we come. Turkey. Pretty much.
Right. You know what? Actually, you know how there's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I'm gonna say I think it's Small Business Saturday, but what if there was Subscribe Sunday and tomorrow you subscribe to your favorite podcast or vodcast, Saturday Morning Mysteries, and leave a review. Instead of giving money, give reviews.
I can't tell you what deal we'll give you, but will entertain you for about an hour every week. So that should be worth the free subscription.
Priceless.
Yeah, literally all you have to do is hit subscribe on whatever app you're listening to or on YouTube, and then boom, we're in your ear every week. I hope that doesn't sound torturous. Bam. Sounds great to me.
We're whispering sweet nothings to you every week.
Yes. Listen to your heart. You will understand.
It's like a haunting.
It is actually. And like when it's coming from an anthropomorphized willow tree. Like, I don't know what Pocahontas was on, but let me know where to find it.
I have to say, no wonder the Salem witch trials eventually happened. Like, they saw some spooky shit in the woods.
The woods are straight up haunted. Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, those natives, maybe, maybe they did something to that land after they were all murdered and massacred on there. Yep. I don't know. Honestly, maybe the religious Virginia colony people did too at Jamestown. It explains why this whole part of the country is the way it is. So on that end, it's been a great 4 weeks, but next week we're doing something fun again, talking about Christmas and winter and all the fun things that come with that. But until then, Grace, who should the listeners and watchers tell about this wonderful podcast?
So I think that this week, you should tell, like maybe email, maybe friends with them on Facebook or something like that, but your favorite history teacher, or maybe like you're still in school and have a history class. I don't know what age people are listening to this, but tell your favorite history teacher about this podcast and be like, actually, this month had some actual facts in it. Like, maybe we should teach this next year during November. This is just the unit.
Just put our podcast on for your lecture. I mean, everyone learns about Powhatans at least, and definitely like about the settlers at Plymouth. So
exactly, we are the new Thanksgiving unit. Tell your fave history teacher or professor or whatever, and then who should they tell after that?
Ooh, let's see. After that, so you tell your history teacher. And then, depending on the type of school you go to, if you go to a Catholic or Christian school. Tell your religion teacher as well.
And tell them to look forward to our Easter episode.
Yes. Look forward for the Easter episodes and tell them that we just did a few episodes about that time that King James ordered the Anglicization of an entire nations of native people so that he could gain their loyalty and subservience in pursuit of the throne, or I guess in keeping the throne. Yeah.
Cool. Go for it. Do it. Awesome. We love it. And we love you all. And we'll see you next week for some wintry crimes.
Indeed.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on. So just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.